If you have a 401k through your job, there's a good chance it was set up the day you were hired, you picked some options without really understanding them, and you haven't looked at it seriously since. That is the most common 401k setup in America. And it is quietly costing a lot of people a retirement. Today, we're going to go through the 4 most common 401k mistakes that middle-class workers make, not the complicated investing ones. The basic ones that nobody explains when you're sitting in HR orientation filling out paperwork. According to a 2024 study by Pontera and the Harris poll, 85% of 401k plan participants struggle to answer basic questions about how their plan works. 85%. That is not a small group of confused people. That is essentially everyone. And the result of that confusion shows up in the numbers. Only 54% of employees contribute at or above their employer's matching rate, according to Vanguard's 2024 report. That means 46% of workers with a 401k are leaving free money on the table every single pay period. By the end of this video, you'll know whether you're in that 46%, what to do about it, and the 3 other setup errors that most workers don't even know exist. What a 401k actually is in 60 seconds before we get into the mistakes. 1 clean baseline. A 401k is a retirement savings account tied to your employer. Money comes out of your paycheck before you see it, which means it also comes out before federal income tax is calculated. That is the first advantage. You're reducing your taxable income right now while building for later. Your employer may match a portion of what you contribute, typically 3 to 6% of your salary. That match is additional compensation your employer is paying you that you only receive if you contribute enough to trigger it. The money inside is invested in funds you choose from a limited menu your employer provides. Those investments grow over time, ideally compounding for decades before you touch it. That's the whole mechanism. Now here's where people go wrong. Mistake 1, not getting the full employer match. The employer match is the highest guaranteed return available to a 9-to-5 worker. If your employer matches 100% of contributions up to 4% of your salary, that's a 100% instant return on that portion of your contribution. No investment in the world offers that. And 46% of workers aren't getting it. The reason is usually the default contribution rate. Most employers who auto-enroll new hires set the default at 3%. If your employer match requires 5% to receive the full benefit, contributing 3% means you're leaving the remaining match unclaimed. On a $60,000 salary with a 4.3% average employer match, the full match is worth $2,580 a year. At 3% contribution, you might be capturing only part of it. Action. Log into your 401k portal today. Find your employer match formula. It will say something like we match 100% of contributions up to 4% of salary or 50% of contributions up to 6%. Set your contribution rate to at least the threshold that captures the full match. Mistake 2. Staying at the default contribution rate forever. Most workers who auto-enroll at 3% stay at 3% indefinitely. They got a raise, their salary went up, and their contribution rate stayed the same percentage of a higher number, but never increased as a percentage. Here's the math problem that creates over time. A 2024 Federal Reserve survey found that nearly half of American households have less than $65,000 saved for retirement. Millennials currently average $67,300 in 401k savings, according to Investopedia 2025 data, and older millennials in their late 30s and early 40s are averaging $103,552. If retirement requires roughly 25x your annual expenses, the standard guideline, and you spend $55,000 a year, you need $1.375 million at retirement. Getting from $67,000 to $1.375 million in 25 years requires consistent contributions well above 3%. Quick check. What's your current 401k contribution rate right now? The percentage you're putting in each paycheck. Drop the number in the comments. I want to see what people are actually contributing. The fix. Increase your contribution rate by 1% every year, timed to when you get a raise. You never feel a 1% increase because it's absorbed by the raise. Over 10 years of annual 1% increases, you've gone from 3% to 13% without a single painful budget decision. Mistake 3. The target date fund you were enrolled in without choosing. If you were auto-enrolled in your 401k, there's a high probability you are in a target date fund. According to Vanguard data, 97% of their plan participants hold target date funds. A target date fund is a single fund that automatically adjusts its investment mix over time based on a target retirement year. A 2055 fund assumes you're retiring around 2055. It starts more aggressive heavier in stocks and gradually shifts to more conservative heavier in bonds as 2055 approaches. The logic is sound. The problem is the details. A target date fund doesn't know whether you have a pension. It doesn't know you own rental property. It doesn't know your risk tolerance. It doesn't adjust for whether you have significant debt that might force you to retire earlier or later than 2055. One size fits 70 million participants. Here's where I want to be honest about the nuance. For a 9-to-5 worker who has never invested before, who would otherwise leave contributions in a money market account earning 2%, or who might try to pick individual funds and make poor choices, a target date fund is a reasonable default. It's not wrong. It's a functional choice that beats inaction. But if you've been working for 10 years and haven't looked at your 401k allocation once, you don't know whether you're in the right fund for your situation. The year on the label should match your rough retirement target. If it doesn't, that's the first thing to fix. I want to stop here because I need to say something honest about the limits of what I can tell you. The question of what the optimal 401k contribution rate is for a middle-class earner who also has credit card debt, a thin emergency fund, and a moderate car payment that is a genuinely contested question in personal finance. Some researchers say, get the full match first, then pay off high-interest debt, then increase retirement savings. Others say, high-interest debt first, retirement later. I've read both cases and I can't give you a universal answer because the math depends on your specific interest rates and your specific match percentage. What I can tell you, any employer match you're not capturing is a guaranteed loss. That part is unambiguous regardless of debt level. Start there. So far, get the full match, increase your rate annually, and check your fund selection. The fourth mistake is the one that costs workers the most money and gets the least attention. Mistake 4. Taking a hardship withdrawal. In 2025, 5,006% of Americans took a hardship withdrawal from their 401k, up from 4.8% in 2024, and more than double pre-pandemic levels according to Vanguard data. 6 straight years of increases. A hardship withdrawal lets you pull money out before retirement for an immediate financial need. The cost is significant. If you're under 59, you owe a 10% early withdrawal penalty on the amount taken. You also owe ordinary income tax on it in the year you take it, meaning if you're in the 22% federal bracket, you're giving up 32% of every dollar you pull out between the penalty and taxes. But the most damaging cost isn't the penalty. It's the compounding you lose. A $10,000 hardship withdrawal at age 40 after a 10% penalty and 22% income tax puts $6,800 in your hand. That same $10,000 left in the account and compounding at a historical average of 7% for 25 years would become approximately $54,274 at retirement. You traded $54,274 in future retirement security for $6,800 today. Vanguard found that the median hardship withdrawal in 2025 was $1,900 and that workers were taking them multiple times, effectively using their retirement account as an emergency fund. The fix to this specific problem isn't a 401k adjustment. It's the $1,000 emergency fund we covered in Week 4. A funded emergency account is what prevents retirement savings from becoming the emergency fund of last resort. One more honest thing. I've given you 4 mistakes and their fixes. What I can't give you is the exact percentage you should be contributing right now. That number is specific to your income, your debt load, your employer match, and how far you are from retirement. Generic advice like save 15% of your income is a reasonable goal, but not a starting point for someone carrying $8,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest. The sequence I described, full match first, then debt, then increase from there, is defensible for most middle-class situations. But your specific numbers might argue for a different order. That's a conversation worth having with your HR department's plan documents and, if possible, with a fee-only financial advisor who isn't earning a commission on what you invest in. Here's the number I held until now. An employee earning $60,000 with a 4.3% employer match who contributes only 3% is leaving $780 in unmatched employer contributions on the table every year. Over 25 years, compounding at 7%, that $780 annual gap becomes approximately $52,000 in retirement savings that never existed. $52,000. Forfeited, because the default contribution rate was never changed. The 401k is the most accessible wealth-building tool available to a 9-to-5 worker. It reduces your taxable income now, grows tax-deferred for decades, and comes with free money from your employer if you use it correctly. Most workers aren't using it correctly not because they don't care, but because nobody walked them through it clearly when they started. Your 4 moves. Confirm you're capturing the full employer match. Set a plan to increase contributions 1% annually. Check the fund you're in and make sure the target year is right. And build your emergency fund so your 401k never has to be your backup plan. That's it. 4 moves. None of them require financial expertise. What's your current 401k contribution rate? Drop the percentage in the comments. If you don't know, that's worth knowing. I'd check today. If this is your kind of channel, subscribe. See you in the next video.